They thought the only thing being buried that day was a fallen hero. But then the dog barked. The sharp, guttural howl cut through the funeral silence like a siren in the dark. It wasn't just noise. It was a warning, a signal, a code only one creature seemed to understand. Blitz, a sable-coated canine German shepherd with eyes too alert for a burial service, lunged forward, breaking from Officer Dana Wolf's grip. In one impossibly fast motion, he sprinted past the mourners in uniform, vaulted onto the back of the hearse, and started clawing at the casket. Everyone froze. The priest stopped mid-prayer. The mayor's mouth dropped open. Even the bugler lowered his horn. Officer Wolf's hand went instinctively to her utility belt, not for her weapon, but to hold herself back. Blitz was trained, disciplined, trusted. He had never, not once in 6 years of service, misread a situation. But this wasn't protocol. This was chaos. And it was unfolding in front of the entire town. She ran to him. "Blitz, down! Heel, what the hell are you doing?" But he wouldn't stop. He barked again, not wild, but urgent, focused. His nose pressed to the casket's seam, his paws digging into the polished mahogany like he was trying to open it with raw instinct. Like he knew that something inside was very, very wrong. The crowd began to murmur. Is this a protest? Is the dog broken? What's in that casket? What was in that casket? Because this wasn't just any officer's funeral. It was Lieutenant Raymond Keener, a 20-year veteran of the force who died in a high-speed crash 2 nights ago. Everyone in town came out. He was beloved, respected, decorated. But Blitz, apparently, didn't care. Dana knelt beside him and felt the vibration in his body. Tense, alive, electric with alert. It wasn't grief. It was a signal. She looked around, scanning the faces of her fellow officers. None of them moved. They didn't understand. But she did. Because K9 Blitz had only ever reacted like this once before. 3 months ago, when he uncovered a missing child hidden beneath floorboards in a farmhouse 40 miles north of here. This wasn't a tantrum. This was a warning. And this funeral wasn't what it seemed. 6 hours earlier. July morning, midsummer heat, rising from the pavement like breath from the dead. The precinct was quiet that morning. Too quiet. Dana had arrived early, wanting to prep Blitz for a brief appearance at the funeral. They weren't even supposed to be there long, just a pass by the casket and a salute for the cameras. Optics. But even in the silence of the prep room, Blitz had been twitchy, pacing, sniffing around the patrol SUV like something inside didn't belong. Dana chalked it up to nerves. Too many people, too much movement. "Easy, boy," she'd whispered, rubbing the spot behind his ear he loved most. 1 hour and we're out of there. No stress. But Blitz wasn't nervous. He was tracking. Back at the funeral, murmurs turned to whispers. Then whispers turned to tension. The funeral director tried to intervene. "Ma'am, please control your animal." "He's not an animal," Dana snapped. "He's a cop." Blitz barked again, sharper, louder. His claws scratched at the casket so violently now that tiny flecks of wood curled up beneath them. That's when Dana noticed it. The way the casket's corner was slightly off-kilter, the metal latches not quite aligned. She turned to the detective next to her, whispering, "That casket, has it been inspected?" Detective Morales blinked. "What do you mean?" "It was sealed at the morgue. No one's opened it since." "No one?" He hesitated, and that hesitation said everything. Dana stood. "I need to open it." Gasps echoed through the chapel. "Are you out of your mind?" someone hissed. But Officer Wolf wasn't listening to them. She was listening to her partner. Blitz was telling her something was in that casket, and it wasn't death. If you've made it this far into the story, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Heroes for Animals. We bring you real stories of bravery, loyalty, and life-saving instincts, straight from the paws and hearts of heroes like Blitz. The casket creaked open. Dana's hand shook as she unlatched the metal locks, one by one. The entire congregation had gone silent again, not out of reverence, but dread. No one knew what was about to be revealed. She lifted the lid. First came the body of Lieutenant Keener, pale, dressed in his formal blues, folded flag resting on his chest. Then Blitz growled low, deeper now, primal, and nosed his snout past the folds of the burial cloth. And that's when Dana saw it. A seam, a horizontal slit in the liner, just wide enough to fit a second compartment. Her training took over. She yanked it open with both hands, and there she was, a little girl, no older than 3, curled up in a fetal position, eyes shut, chest barely rising, still alive. The crowd screamed. Paramedics ran in from the sidelines. Dana reached in and pulled the girl out gently, wrapping her in her uniform jacket. The child coughed once, opened her eyes, and began to cry. A thin, weak wail like a kitten under water. Blitz licked her cheek, tail wagging for the first time all day. And Officer Wolf? She didn't say a word, because the questions were already flooding in. Who was she? How did she get there? And what kind of monster hides a child in a coffin? But Dana knew the answer to the most important question already. Blitz wasn't barking at the dead. He was trying to save the living. No one left the cemetery that day with dry eyes or clean hands. Within minutes of Dana Wolf pulling the child from the hidden compartment beneath Lieutenant Keener's body, the funeral unraveled into a full-scale investigation. The little girl was alive, barely, but the silence that followed her rescue was loud with suspicion. Police officers scrambled to cordon off the area. Yellow tape zigzagged through gravestones. Cameras were confiscated. The honor guard stood motionless, rifles still slung over their shoulders, their faces stunned into stone. Blitz stayed close to the girl, his ears perked and body angled protectively over her as the EMTs arrived. Dana, her hands still trembling, rode with them in the ambulance to Mercy Regional Hospital. She couldn't leave Blitz, and Blitz wouldn't leave the girl. "Her name's Maddie," one of the EMTs whispered. "We ran her photo through the database. Missing since Tuesday." That was 3 days ago. 3 days locked in a box with a corpse. At the hospital, the girl was stabilized. Her vitals, though dangerously low, were improving. A detective took photos of the bruises on her wrists and ankles. Ligature marks, they said. She'd been bound, gagged, and hidden away like cargo. Dana stood beside the hospital bed, arms crossed tight, heart pounding in rhythm with the beeping monitors. Blitz lay on the tile floor at her feet, unmoving, watching. The girl hadn't spoken. She hadn't cried. She hadn't even made eye contact, except for that first moment when Dana pulled her from the coffin, just a fragile whimper and a whisper. One sentence, so soft it could have been wind. "He said I'd be safe with the man in blue." Those words played over and over in Dana's head, like a scratched record stuck on a single groove. "He said I'd be safe." The next morning, Lieutenant Keener's file was pulled. It didn't take long for red flags to show up. Though he had no known family, Keener had one close associate outside the department, a former patrol partner named Warren Geller. Geller had resigned 5 years ago under cloudy circumstances involving missing evidence and unauthorized searches. Nothing ever stuck, but everyone knew something was off about the guy. "He disappeared 2 weeks ago," said Detective Morales, flipping through Keener's call logs. "Last seen in Topeka. No known address." "Why would Keener be involved in something like this?" Dana asked, still in uniform, coffee gone cold in her hand. "He was a mentor to half this precinct." Morales looked up, voice low. "Exactly why he was the perfect guy to move a body unnoticed." Dana clenched her jaw. "And a kidnapped girl." They replayed security footage from the morgue. It showed Keener's body being delivered and prepped for viewing. Standard procedure. Except one crucial moment. Time-stamped 3:07 a.m. when the camera glitched for 12 minutes. In that window, someone tampered with the casket. You could barely make out the silhouette in the hallway reflection. Male, average height, wearing scrubs. But the real clue was what they found inside Keener's uniform during autopsy. A slip of paper tucked behind the medal pinned to his chest. On it, a partial address, scribbled in shaky handwriting. Farmard 29, behind Water Tower. No city, no state. But it was enough. They found it in Kansas, a rundown farmhouse in the middle of a dried field, 10 minutes off the interstate, and 45 miles from the nearest police station. Dana rode shotgun in an unmarked SUV, Blitz in the back, panting lightly but alert. The house had been abandoned for years. On the books, anyway. Inside, they found 4 small cots, all with torn blankets, cups, children's shoes, duct tape, empty cereal boxes, and a laminated photo of Lieutenant Keener, pinned to a corkboard in the corner with a yellow thumbtack. Dana stepped closer. Her throat tightened. Next to Keener's face was another photo, a school ID badge. Warren Geller. Same eyes, same build, just older, weathered, unwell. There were words scribbled across the board in red marker. Payment due. Last transport. One more favor. Do you think Keener was forced into this? Morales asked, stepping over debris. Dana shook her head slowly. I don't know. But if he wasn't helping, he sure as hell wasn't stopping it. Blitz growled low from the back room. Dana followed. There, under a floorboard, Blitz had found a box of burner phones, all still charged. Morales picked one up and scrolled through texts. A recent message read, "Drop goes in coffin, no noise, no cops. 7:10 delivery." That was the date of Keener's funeral. Someone had used a decorated officer's burial to smuggle out a child like she was a piece of luggage. Back at the hospital, Maddie still wasn't talking. Blitz sat at her bedside most of the afternoon. Doctors allowed it. They said the girl showed lower signs of stress when he was near. The dog didn't bark, didn't move. He just stayed, watching over her like he'd made a promise. Dana brought her a popsicle. Purple. Grape. Maddie didn't touch it. But then, as Dana went to leave, she heard a sound. Soft. Croaky. Doggy. She turned. Maddie's tiny hand was resting on Blitz's paw. Her eyes, for the first time, were looking straight ahead. At Dana. Is he staying? Dana sat beside her. As long as you want, sweetheart. Maddie nodded, her lips quivering. He found me. In the dark. Dana blinked back tears. Yeah, baby. He did. That night, as Dana and Blitz walked out of the hospital, a reporter ambushed her in the parking lot. Officer Wolf? Is it true your K-9 discovered the girl at the funeral? Dana didn't answer. What was she doing in the coffin? Dana paused, turned, and met the woman's eyes. She was waiting to be rescued. And he, she pointed at Blitz, is the reason she still has a life to live. The reporter lowered the mic. Do you think this was part of something bigger? Dana didn't blink. I think it's just the beginning. Back at home, Dana poured a bowl of food for Blitz and watched him eat. For the first time in days, her hands were steady. Her mind was not. There were too many unanswered questions. Who else was involved? Why Keener? Where were the other kids whose names had appeared in the farmhouse ledgers? But tonight, at least, Maddie was safe. Because a dog barked when no one else did. A week had passed since Blitz barked at the casket, and nothing about life had returned to normal. The town's flags were still flying at half-staff, but the grief had shifted into something heavier. Suspicion. The funeral had exposed a hidden horror, and now everyone was wondering what else had been buried, besides Lieutenant Keener. Officer Dana Wolf sat in the precinct conference room, surrounded by case files and stale coffee. A corkboard behind her was pinned with photos. Keener's last shift, the farmhouse, the burner phone logs, the child's bruises. And in the middle of it all, a laminated copy of the fake badge. Because that's what it was. Fake. The badge on Keener's dress blues the day of the funeral didn't match department records. Serial number off by 1 digit. Crest slightly outdated. On the surface, it was perfect. But to someone who wore the uniform daily, the difference was as glaring as a siren in the dark. "Someone switched it out," Dana said, her voice flat. Detective Morales nodded. The coroner confirmed it. This wasn't just sloppy. This was staged. It didn't make sense. Keener was one of theirs, had been for years. If he wasn't alive to explain, the people who tampered with his uniform were still out there. And if they were bold enough to hide a child in a coffin, they were planning something worse. Blitz paced nearby, ears twitching as the conversation thickened. Dana scratched under his collar. "You smell it, don't you? The stink of a setup." Morales rubbed his eyes. "We need to know why. Why a dead cop? Why a child? And more importantly, why now?" Dana leaned forward, her voice low. "Because they thought no one would look inside a hero's casket. And for the most part, they were right." Later that afternoon, Maddie whispered a new clue. Dana had stopped by the hospital after her shift. Blitz always walked ahead of her, now unofficially recognized as a therapy dog by the nursing staff. Nurses would smile and clear the hallway whenever he passed. People trusted him more than their own instincts. Maddie was coloring. Purple and blue scribbles on construction paper. Dana noticed the lines were intentional. Boxes, shapes, and in the corner, a drawing of a badge. "Did you make this?" Dana asked softly. Maddie nodded, her voice barely audible. "It was on the man's shirt." Dana blinked. "Which man?" "The one who put me in the dark." A cold shiver ran through her spine. "You mean the coffin?" Maddie nodded again and pointed to the badge. But it wasn't a police badge. It was a security badge. That night, Dana pulled up a list of local security firms. One name stuck out. Sentry Shield Security, a private company contracted to provide extra eyes at county buildings and disaster relief sites. Dana remembered seeing their vans around town for months. Nondescript, unremarkable. They blended in. She dug deeper. Their employee database included over 300 guards across the state. Then she found it. Warren Geller, hired under a different name, Kyle Freeman. Dana's jaw clenched. He had slipped through their fingers. Again. The next morning, Dana brought the information to Morales. "Geller's alive, working security, going by Kyle Freeman, registered with Sentry Shield." Morales stared at the screen. "We have an address?" "Rented mailbox in Wichita." Morales exhaled. "So he's ghosting." Dana shook her head. "Not exactly. Look at this. Last week, Geller's badge was scanned at a disaster drill 3 towns over. Kids, parents, volunteers. Open access. No one paid attention." "He's watching crowds," Morales muttered. "Tracking families." Dana added, "And the funeral? That was a test run. They formed a task force. No more waiting. No more loose ends." Dana, Morales, 2 state investigators, and Blitz. The plan: follow Geller's tracks through the Sentry Shield network, identify other compromised employees, and locate any potential drop points that could be used like the casket. Their first stop: an abandoned event warehouse off I-135, where Sentry Shield had hosted a community safety expo a month prior. Inside, Blitz's nose went wild. He pulled Dana toward a locked steel door near the back. She popped it open. Inside, a cold, windowless room. Dusty, silent, smelled of mildew and chemicals. But there was something else, too. A child's backpack, pink, unicorn keychain, and a row of folding chairs facing a mounted flat-screen TV. On a loop, it played a recording of a safety PSA. "Trust the badge. The badge is your friend." Morales took photos. "Jesus, this is grooming material." Dana found a clipboard. Names, ages, volunteer status. They were using drills to identify vulnerable children. Blitz sat down in front of a vent, tail rigid. Dana knelt beside him, unscrewed the grate. Inside, a hidden hard drive wrapped in plastic. She handed it to Morales. "We got him." But she knew deep down this wasn't over. This wasn't just one man. This was a network. Later that night, back at home, Dana poured kibble into Blitz's bowl and sat beside him. She scratched his head. "You always know first, don't you?" Blitz licked her hand. Her phone buzzed. It was a video file. Anonymous. She opened it. Footage played. A man in a blue shirt holding a child's hand. Their faces were obscured. The man looked into the camera and said, "One dog saved one girl, but you can't save them all." The screen cut to black. Dana stared at the phone, her face pale, heart hammering. This wasn't over. This was a war. And Blitz? He was the only one who knew how to find the next battlefield. The footage wouldn't stop playing in her mind. One dog saved one girl, but you can't save them all. Officer Dana Wolf watched that grainy, anonymous video over and over again as she sat in her living room, Blitz curled at her feet. Her stomach was tight, jaw locked. The man in the video had worn a blue shirt, just enough to confuse a child. Not quite a police uniform, but close enough to trick a 3-year-old into believing she was safe. And the child beside him? Too small, too familiar. It wasn't Maddie, but it could have been. The next morning, Dana walked into the precinct like a storm rolling over dry land. Her boots hit the floor harder than usual. Blitz stayed close, matching her pace. Every head turned when she entered the operations room. "I want every file Sentry Shield has touched in the last 12 months, she told Morales. Every school expo, county fair, disaster drill, every event where kids were involved. Morales handed her a folder already prepped. "I figured you'd ask." She took it and flipped through. There were names, addresses, event logs, every site they'd worked in Kansas and neighboring states. But one entry stood out, a recent safety readiness workshop, hosted in a decommissioned elementary school in Clay County. The school had been closed for asbestos and mold. No power, no running water. But according to the records, 50 volunteers had gathered there, and Sentry Shield had logged the security detail. "Why would anyone hold a safety drill in a condemned school?" Dana asked. Morales gave her a grim look. "Because no one's watching abandoned places." They rolled out that afternoon in 2 unmarked vehicles, accompanied by a forensics tech and a tactical K9 handler. But Blitz wouldn't stay behind. He'd already jumped into Dana's SUV before she even grabbed her keys. She didn't argue. "Come on, partner," she said. "Let's find out what they buried." The school was a ghost. Peeling paint, broken windows, a collapsed swing set out front. The front door had been boarded, but not well. Dana and Morales pried it open with crowbars. Inside, dust blanketed everything. Desks, chairs, overturned bookshelves. It was like time had tried to erase what had happened there, but hadn't succeeded. Blitz moved ahead, his nose low to the floor. Dana followed. "Where are you going, boy?" The dog turned down the hallway toward what used to be the gym. That's where they found it. The gym floor looked ordinary, dusty, scuffed, empty. But Blitz froze near center court and started circling. His nose pressed to the hardwood, tail stiff. Dana crouched beside him and ran her hand across the floor. There it was, a faint draft coming from a thin crack in the boards. "Morales," she called out, "we've got something." They pried up the boards, revealing a crude trapdoor underneath. And beneath that, stairs, leading down into a dark, unlit basement. The air changed the moment they stepped below ground. It smelled like old metal, mildew, and something worse. Fear. The walls were concrete, cold, echoey. Dana's flashlight flickered across writing on the walls. Children's names, tally marks, a cage in the corner. Empty. Another room. Inside, 2 old mattresses, zip ties, a drawer full of candy. Dana's throat clenched. This wasn't just a hideout. This was a holding area. Morales radioed for backup and a forensics sweep. "We need units now. Multiple crime scenes, likely victims." Dana stepped back into the hallway. That's when Blitz growled. He was facing a small utility closet. his body rigid, ears up, tail out. Dana opened the door. Inside, a child, no older than 5, alive, but terrified. The boy didn't speak. His skin was pale, his eyes huge in the dark. He clung to Blitz the second Dana pulled him out. "He's been sedated," Morales said, examining a used syringe near the doorway. "Probably kept down here for days." Dana wrapped the boy in her jacket. "How long do you think they've been using this place?" Morales shook his head. "Too long." But it wasn't just the basement. Back upstairs, they found folders in a locked cabinet. Documents, photos, hand-drawn maps, details of future events. One was circled in red. State Capitol, Police Memorial Ceremony, July 20th. Location, Public Plaza. Open access, dozens of departments, hundreds of children. "They're planning another drop," Dana whispered. Morales swallowed. This one would be national. Back at the precinct, everything shifted into overdrive. The boy was identified as Noah James, reported missing 3 days earlier during a summer camp field trip in Oklahoma. No leads, no witnesses, till now. And Blitz had found him. Again, later that night, Dana drove home exhausted, her uniform wrinkled, hands still covered in dust and splinters. Blitz sat in the passenger seat instead of the back like he usually did. He'd earned it. At home, she poured his dinner, gave him fresh water, and sat on the floor beside him. "You're not just a dog," she whispered, stroking his back. "You're a compass, and they're not ready for you." Her phone buzzed. Blocked number. Another video. She played it. This time, the footage showed the Capitol Plaza. A man walking through the crowd, face obscured, camera shaky. And then a close-up of Maddie, the girl Blitz had saved. The voice on the video spoke again. "You think this ends because of one barking dog? She was a message. The next is a lesson." Static. Then black. Dana didn't hesitate. She forwarded the video to Morales, the FBI liaison, and the state troopers. The plan was changing. No more waiting for the next funeral. No more watching from the sidelines. They were going to the Capitol, and Blitz would be front and center. The war had begun, and they'd just crossed the line from reactive to ready. The morning of the Capitol Police Memorial Ceremony arrived with more tension than tradition. The plaza in downtown Topeka had been transformed into a sea of flags, bagpipes, and blue uniforms. Rows of officers stood shoulder to shoulder in solemn silence, honoring the fallen. Families gathered. Children clutched American flags. Politicians shook hands under white tents. And in the middle of it all, walking on a leash at Officer Dana Wolf's side, was Blitz. To the public, it was a simple tribute. A handler and her dog, representing the K-9 unit that had gained quiet fame over the last 2 weeks. But behind the uniforms and speeches, it was a trap. Because someone was planning to use this ceremony, not for remembrance, but for recruitment and removal. They were coming to take another child, and Dana was done playing defense. "Earpieces in," Morales said over the radio. "All eyes on the southwest corner. The boy in red, we're watching who watches him." Dana scanned the crowd. Hundreds of faces, most solemn, a few distracted, some too focused. Blitz kept his nose low. He wasn't looking for a man. He was tracking intent. The smell of nerves, sweat, fear. Something that didn't belong. They'd set up layers of surveillance, cameras, undercover agents, heat sensors. But Dana still trusted Blitz over any of it. At 10:37 a.m., Blitz stopped walking. He turned sharply to the left, ears perked, tail straight out. Dana gripped his leash tighter. "You got something?" Blitz growled once. Low, controlled, his hackles stood up. The crowd was applauding as a speaker finished his tribute. The noise masked everything else. Dana followed Blitz as he led them toward the far end of the plaza, past the memorial wall, and into a shaded vendor tent area. Tables with brochures, snacks, teddy bears, and a man in a navy blue polo holding a clipboard standing just a little too still. Blitz stopped 3 feet from him and barked, sharp, loud, cutting through the clapping like a rifle shot. The man flinched. Dana stepped in front of Blitz, hand hovering near her firearm. "Sir, I need to see your credentials." The man didn't speak. "Now!" Still nothing. He dropped the clipboard and ran. "Suspect fleeing northeast side," Dana shouted into her mic. "Blue polo, khakis, brown ball cap. Blitz, go!" She unclipped the leash. Blitz took off like a rocket, weaving through the crowd. People screamed and scattered. The man ducked between tables and lunged toward a gated service alley behind the plaza. But Blitz was faster. He leapt, catching the man's arm in his teeth, dragging him to the pavement. By the time Dana arrived, the suspect was on the ground, bleeding and cursing. Blitz stood over him, unmoving. Morales and 2 troopers secured the perimeter. Back at the mobile command unit, they ran the man's prints. Kyle Freeman, alias, real name Warren Geller. Finally, Dana leaned over the table, hands planted on the surface, staring at his mugshot. The same smirk from the anonymous videos. The same man who had spoken those chilling words. "One dog saved one girl, but you can't save them all." He wasn't smiling anymore. "What were you planning today?" Morales demanded. Geller said nothing. "You were going to take a kid, right here, in front of everyone." Still silence. But Dana wasn't interested in his words. She went back to the plaza. Blitz was pacing again, nose twitching. Something wasn't right. The mission wasn't over. She followed him to a storage tent set up behind the speaker's platform. Blitz began barking furiously. She rushed forward, yanked open the flap, and found a black duffel bag, wired with a countdown. 0217. "Bomb squad! We have the live device!" Dana shouted. The officers cleared the area. Evacuations began. The device was rigged for a controlled blast, low radius, just enough to cause panic, stampede, confusion. Perfect cover for a snatch and run. It had all been a distraction. Geller hadn't come to abduct anyone. He came to create chaos, so someone else could. 10 blocks away, another officer found a stolen van with the engine running, parked outside a childcare booth at the far end of the plaza. Empty. Dana stared at the street map. The plan had been massive. Multiple agents. Coordinated chaos. And Blitz had sniffed it out just in time. That night, the ceremony made national news. Not because of the speeches, but because of the hero dog who stopped a bombing. Dana sat on the precinct roof with Blitz, the city lights twinkling below. "You did it again," she whispered, scratching behind his ears. He pressed his head into her chest. Morales joined them, holding 2 coffees. "Interrogation cracked," he said. "Geller gave up some names. 2 more operatives in Missouri. We've got the feds on it." Dana nodded. "They're connected to something bigger." Morales sat beside her. "But you know what?" "What?" They didn't get anyone today. Across the country, headlines told the story. "Canine dog foils bomb plot at police ceremony. Officer Blitz saves dozens again. From a coffin to a capital. The dog who sees what we don't." But for Dana, it wasn't about press. It was about the children they hadn't found yet, the ones still trapped in the dark. Later that week, Dana received a letter. No return address, postmarked from Texas. Inside was a photo of Maddie, the little girl Blitz had rescued at the funeral. She was smiling, holding a stuffed German shepherd. On the back, scrawled in shaky handwriting, "He still watches the door." Dana showed it to Blitz. He sniffed the photo, tail wagging once. Then he walked over to the front door and sat, watching, waiting, ready. Some dogs retire with a medal. Blitz got a scar. It happened 1 month after the Capitol bombing was stopped. Dana and Blitz were called out on a joint operation with federal agents, an abandoned train car just outside Springfield, Missouri. Intelligence from Warren Geller's confession had led them there. The setup was familiar. No witnesses, no cameras, no signs of life, until Blitz pawed open a crate. Inside were 2 children, siblings, ages 6 and 4, pale, confused, but alive. And just as Dana lifted the youngest out, A rusted metal panel snapped loose from above and struck Blitz across the ribs. He yelped once and dropped to the ground. Dana screamed. At the animal hospital, she refused to leave the exam room. Blitz was breathing, but shallow. His side was bruised. 2 cracked ribs, internal bleeding. The vet, Dr. Lin, put a hand on Dana's shoulder. "He's tough, but he needs rest. Weeks, maybe more." Dana nodded. "Just tell me he's gonna make it." Dr. Lin smiled softly. He didn't come this far to stop now. The department put Dana on temporary leave. She didn't fight it. She needed to be with Blitz. Every day she sat by his side, reading files, combing through reports, making notes with one hand while the other rested on his fur. Blitz didn't move much, but when she mentioned Maddie, or Noah, or any of the rescued kids by name, his ears twitched. That was enough. One afternoon, 2 weeks into recovery, Blitz stood up, wobbly, slow, but standing. Dana dropped her notebook and wrapped her arms around him, tears slipping down her cheeks. "You stubborn, beautiful boy," she whispered. "I knew you weren't done." Back at the precinct, things had changed. A new task force had been formed. Child Recovery and Exploitation Unit, CREU, and Dana had been asked to lead it. She didn't hesitate. Blitz was officially listed as medically restricted. No high-risk deployments, no high-speed pursuits. But Dana found a way around that. They built him a desk. He became the unofficial guardian of the unit. Kids who came in to testify or be reunited with family were always brought to see Blitz first. Something about him, the calm stare, the gentle nudge of his head, settled nerves faster than any counselor ever could. Dana often joked, "We don't run a squad, we run a sanctuary," and no one argued. One morning, months after Blitz's injury, Maddie and her adoptive mother came to visit. Maddie had grown. Her hair was longer, cheeks fuller. She carried a backpack covered in dog stickers. When she saw Blitz, she ran to him without a second thought. He stood still as she hugged his neck. "Is he still working?" she asked. Dana smiled. "He's semi-retired." "What's that mean?" "It means," Dana said, kneeling beside her, "he picks the missions now." That same day, a new file hit Dana's desk. It was an anonymous tip, an old rural property in Nebraska. Strange noises, unusual deliveries, out-of-state vehicles spotted frequently. Most of it sounded like internet rumor. But the address included a name scribbled in the margin. Freeman, the alias Geller used. Dana stared at it. Blitz was lying near the window, watching pigeons. She tapped the folder and said, "You feel like sniffing out one last lie?" Blitz stood. The drive was quiet. A 2-lane highway. Autumn leaves scattered across the pavement. Dana rolled down the window and let the breeze hit her face. Blitz sat upright in the passenger seat, eyes scanning the horizon. "We might be chasing shadows," she said. Blitz didn't blink. The farmhouse looked like any other. Weather-worn wood, shuttered windows, front porch swing, creaking in the wind. Dana stepped out slowly, gun holstered but hand close. Blitz moved ahead. Around the back they found it. A trapdoor under the barn floor. Unlocked. Dana opened it. Stairs led downward. She paused. "Stay here," she whispered to Blitz. But he didn't. He went first. The basement was lit with a single bulb swinging on a wire. Dust floated through the air like ash. There were no children. No cages. Just a chair and a laptop. Dana approached carefully. On the screen, a paused video. She hit play. Geller appeared, pre-recorded. "Hello, Officer Wolf. And Blitz, if you're watching." He smiled. "You're better than I expected." "That's a compliment." He leaned closer. "But you're also too late." The video cut to a photo of 3 children, faces blurred, hands held. "They're not here," his voice continued. "They're everywhere. You've saved a few. Good for you. But the system is bigger than one leash and one badge." Dana's hands tightened. The video ended. Nothing else, just silence. Blitz stared at the screen, then growled, soft, "Steady!" That night, back at headquarters, Dana filed the report. Morales stopped by her desk. "You okay?" "No." He nodded. We'll get him. Dana looked down at Blitz, resting on his bed beside her. I think we already are. Weeks passed. Tips trickled in. The ring started to unravel, not in a blaze of arrests, but in quiet withdrawals, suspended identities, broken accounts, blacklists, the kind of silent war no one sees until it's over. And at the center of it, a dog who barked at a coffin. Months later, Blitz was officially retired. His badge was framed. His vest was signed by every officer in the unit, and his name was engraved on a plaque outside the Child Recovery Office. K9 Blitz, he never looked away. One day, Dana brought Blitz to a school assembly where Maddie was being honored for her bravery. She stood on stage and held a mic with shaky hands. "He didn't know me," she said, looking down at Blitz, "but he saved me anyway." The audience clapped. Blitz wagged his tail once. Dana smiled. Some heroes wear badges. Some heroes wear fur. Thank you for following this emotional and powerful journey of K9 Blitz and Officer Dana Wolf. From a shocking bark at a funeral to the unraveling of a silent national crime ring, Blitz showed us that instincts, when trusted, can change everything. What would you have done if you saw a dog barking at a casket during a funeral? Would you have trusted him or dismissed it as a distraction? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to Heroes for Animals for more true stories that celebrate the animals who save lives when humans fall short.